Our new anime is about Hiraku, who died after being betrayed, so God gave him a chance to live a happy life in another world. So Hiraku chose to be a farmer in this world, and with the god's blessing and a heavenly farming tool, Hiraku creates a village. But the most amazing thing is, all the residents in his village are girls, making him the Harem King in another world. But that's just a quick preview. Let's start the story from the scratch, shall we? So Hiraku died a painful death in the hospital and meets the god in the heavens. God felt bad that Hiraku lived a painful life and died after being betrayed by others. So God gave him a chance to live out a normal happy life in another world and told Hiraku to ask anything he wanted to become in that world. Well, while stuck in that hospital, Hiraku often watched the farming show, so Hiraku wanted to become a farmer and live out a life away from others. So God rolls the call to the god of agriculture for permission to grant Hiraku the blessings of farming. And additionally, God gives him a divine farming tool and also blessed Hiraku with a body full of vitality and sent him in the middle of a forest. Hiraku woke up and saw the place as something that no one can reach even if they want to, but that is what he wished for. So Hiraku brought out the farming tool God gave him, and no matter how much Hiraku used it, Hiraku won't feel tired at all. But first comes the supplies. Hiraku carefully listened to see if there was a water stream nearby, but there was only the sound of rustling leaves, and on top of that the place was giving him a creepy vibe. So Hiraku goes a little further in the forest and found a great tree, so he decided to set up his home near it. But first comes the water supply. Hiraku transformed his tool into a shovel and dug down the hole and found the water too easily. Then he clears out the land and pretty much levels it, but there was a tree in his way. So he transformed his tool into an axe, and shockingly Hiraku cuts out the tree like a butter in a single shot. So he sharpened out the woods to make a hut. But it was getting late, so Hiraku made a magnifying lens to lit a fire, but the sun had already set down, so he craves out the tree to make a little cave to spend the night. Then Hiraku made an early morning start, but a killer rabbit tried to make Hiraku his lunch, so Hiraku turned the tables and made that rabbit into his own morning lunch, and then he created a toilet to stay clean and started cultivating the land. But after completing the job, Hiraku realized he needed seeds to actually start farming. So Hiraku went to sleep with that disappointment, but the next morning he saw sprouts were coming out of the fields and realized that the god's farming tool can make anything even without a seed. Then he made a ditch and a fence to fend off the intruders, after which he made a little hut for himself to have roof above his head. But then he saw two dogs outside. They looked beaten up and the female was pregnant, so Hiraku took them in and fed them some meat. But after that the female goes into labor, so Hiraku gave them his hut for the night. And after that long hard night, the female gave birth to healthy puppies, so Hiraku thought they would leave, but coincidentally they chose to stick around. But then the scene shifts back to God, who realizes he sent Hiraku to the forest of death instead of a safe isolated place, and because he can't interact with the world, he assumed Hiraku would return after he dies in that world as well. But bro was farming and chilling out without a care. There he noticed one thing was missing. That is the seasoning or salt for his food, so Hiraku found a river after exploring the area, and grew some other crops for ingredients. But the winter has arrived, and Hiraku had nothing for survival, but the dog, Koro, brought back a giant cushion-looking spider, and that spider demonstrated that she could make clothes out of his spider silk. So Hiraku got a pretty nice supply of clothes now to pass the winter, and in exchange, Spider only wants his favorite potatoes, and with that, the long hard winter passed. But during that time those puppies grew up and left and brought back their own partners, and Zabuton also gave birth to her children's. But suddenly, Zabuton ringed the alarm of an intruder. So Koro leads Hiraku to where the other dogs had captured that intruder. She was a little girl, so Hiraku approached her, but suddenly she bit him and sucked Hiraku's blood. With that she transformed into her grown-up form, so Koro and the others showed her to mind her manners and respect someone's privacy. She was a vampire, but she seemed harmless. She explained that she used a bit too much power, so Hiraku offered his blood to help her out, and she grew up again. Then Hiraku took her to the village and showed her all the crops and farms. Her name is Lucy, and she was fascinated to see new crops. Apparently she was a researcher. And the reason she got into this forest was because a noble tried to steal her research, so she got into a fight with him. So Lucy was planning to stay here for a while. But Hiraku had felt lonely to stay all by himself here, so he requested Lucy to move in with him and stay here forever. She got flustered because it was too sudden for a proposal. So Hiraku was shocked, but he didn't clarify that he only meant she should stay here, so Hiraku let things go naturally and got a nice vampire wife. Hiraku showed her around the village. And while having lunch, Lucy noticed it was cooked without salt, so Hiraku told her he wanted to find some salt but had no luck. So she showed him the salt in the ground that he didn't notice while digging, but then Zabuton rings the alarm again, and this time there was an angel who broke in. Her name is Tia and she was here to capture Lucy, but Kuro and others once again showed the new person to respect peace. Anyway, Lucy then introduced Hiraku to Tia as her husband. As for Tia, she introduced herself as an angel, so Hiraku mistook her for being a god's messenger, so Tia clears it up that angels are known to a warrior's clan in this world. And the reason she was after Lucy because there was a bounty on her head for messing up with a noble and made a whole mess after she threw out her anger in a rampage. But Lucy tells her the reason for doing this was because of that noble who kept forcing her to make medicine, so she just tried to teach him a lesson, and after messing with him, she was on the run because Tia was after her. But that aside, Lucy told Tia to stay with them here and showed her around the farms, and then introduced Zabuton. Tia fades right away in shock. And after showing her their full farming area and fruits, Lucy was pretty insistent to Tia to move in here, looking at her desperate eyes. Tia agreed to stay with them and began working in the fields, but one day she took off and brought back many elf girls with her. Apparently elf lost their home in a human war and had nowhere to go. They had wandered around for 200 years, and also they had lost their home and almost every elf man was killed, so the girls wanted to settle down and make children to revive their race once again. So Hiraku agreed to let them move in and didn't say a single thing. Those elves were natural at construction and started making a new home right away, and after 10 days, they all created a nice big house. Others quickly adapted to live here and started their own forgery. Then, after a while, Zabuton came to Hiraku because she caught a big queen bee, so Hiraku built a small shed for them to make their nest. Then, since elves are good at construction work, Hiraku planned to make a water reservoir. He built a waterway with the elves, and now that they have the water supply, so Hiraku became focused on making rice paddies. He made the preparation to grow rice and taught the girls how to sow the seeds, and in just a few days the rice was fully grown and the girls started harvesting it. Hiraku showed them the process for threshing to extract the rice and then grinding to clean rice, and after the long process rice were ready to cook. So Hiraku told Lucy to make a small fire to cook rice at a low temperature, and after boiling it, Hiraku made rice ball first. The girls liked it so much there were none left for him to eat. Then they started to cultivate more rice, but after getting dirty from the work, Hiraku noticed that everyone else could use magic to clean themselves while he couldn't use a single spell. So he planned to make a bath. They began to make it out, and after completion, Hiraku wasn't sure where to let out the dirty water, so Tia told him to use slime. They eat all the dead organic matter and do the job of cleaning, and finally it was time to hoop in the bath, but no one knew how to use it. So Hiraku showed them to first wash up and then get into the bath, but the girls were so relaxed around Hiraku that they joined him to have fun. But then a few new elves came to live in, and Hiraku had no problem letting them in, so they were hopeful to make homes and revive their race by making children, and the only male around is Hiraku. So what happens next, find out in another part, but till then stay tuned and subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon to receive latest updates of my channel, so take care.